This is Brother Michael McManus from Williams Chapel Church, and I'm Deborah Wells McManus. I'm your wife.
Yes.
We are doing a video cast, and tell me a little bit of why this vision of the video cast came to be and what your vision is for it for the future, and tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to start off by saying, I just want to show and give God all the honor and glory for everything, not just with this, but in my life and in general. But this video cast, it came to me that, there's enough negativity out there that gets spread like wildfires, people shootings, stuff every day. So I wanted to try to put a video cast together, and in my mind I had, Road to Salvation. So I want to be able to take my experience, of my life, where I was, where I came from, where I am today, share it, share it with the world, and try to, reach out to those who may not know or may be curious. But also, moving forward, I'd like to be able to have other, people come in and tell their testimony. Salvation experience, or pastors, preachers, singers, brothers, sisters, whoever would like to come. We would love to have them. So
Okay, good. Well, let's get behind this, and I'm going to be interviewing the first 3 or so interviews that's going to be covering your life. And I stand behind you, or I wouldn't be on this camera.
yes.
So, but from here on, after we get done with your life, you'll be doing the interviewing, and so,
Yeah.
So that's just so for the folks out there that hopefully they'll share the page and share the video, and that we can have others to come into our home and do an interview for us, and we will be leaving an email and a phone number at the bottom of the screen. And you will be able to contact us and tell us your story.
Absolutely. And I just want to keep it comfortable environment, so to speak, and just come in, relax, and just whatever you have on your heart, or just something you want to tell, to be able to share that experience. And like I said, I would love to see everybody's testimony and experience come in and just spread like wildfires. And so, I'm excited about it because I'm excited about my God and everything He's done for me. And I want to show everybody else how excited I am and give Him all the honor and glory He deserves.
Okay, well, let's get started then.
All right.
All right. So first in this episode, we're going to be talking about your childhood. So tell me one of the first experiences that you remember as a child.
Well, the youngest experience I remember was when I was in the second grade. Of course, I wasn't always an angel. But my mother, she was stern. And anybody that knows Annie Mae Powell, they know, well, if she said what she meant what she said. So, but, so in the second grade, I was doing a lot of things I shouldn't be doing. Not being very kind to others and stuff, but ended up, I got paddling just about, every day for like a whole month. And so, they sent a letter home to my mom. Well, she ended up coming and, to my classroom, and my teacher, was there, and she just, she looked at him and said, I want to see the paddle you've been using on my boy. And so, he was like, okay, yes, ma'am, pulls the paddle out, lays it out there, and she was like, you've been doing it all wrong, So I knew I was in trouble as soon as I heard that. I knew I was in trouble, but she pulled me right there in front of everybody, and she just wore me out with that paddle. And but I didn't get another paddle the rest of that year.
So your family was pretty poor. Growing up.
Yes. So we grew up poor. Mom, she gave us, she provided the best she could. She worked as a waitress her whole life, and she just always, had backaches and stuff like that. But I mean, she did the best she could with what she could. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Testament to moms out there. Tell us about your family. A little bit about your
All
siblings.
right. I have older brother and two younger sisters. We all have a strong bond, but we all have a bond in different ways. So, me and my brother, we grew up tight. Played sports together, went fishing, did all kind of stuff like that. Was able to, be on certain all-star teams together, and we, like the old saying goes, brother, we stick through it thick and thin. And we did. Fought together. We threw, stuff, together, and my sisters, and we would, we were close. And one time I was real close with all of them. Of course, they all live in Alabama, so. But still, my brother and I, we talk every day, basically every day through the week anyway. Just normal talk, but we, growing up, especially with mom, certain things. If you do certain things, there was going to be consequences. So, one incident I remember is my brother and I. We were playing baseball in the back. We lived in Saudi Daisy, Chattanooga, out towards that way, and ended up, we had a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket full of baseballs. Well, I threw threw him all the pitches and let him hit. Went and got all the balls and came back, and I was just like, well, it's my turn. And he said, no, I just don't feel like it anymore. So I was like, what do you mean you don't feel like it anymore? Well, he starts walking to the house. Well, he wasn't going to do it no more. So I ran up there. I grabbed the baseball bat. I went back and flung it as hard as I could. And it's almost like you could hear it sound like a helicopter blade, woo, 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 like that. And then the next thing I was like, oh no, look out, Roy. Well, he turned around, bam, and it broke his arm.
So, how did you
I was
do
scared.
that?
I was scared to death.
How did you
I
do
knew Mama was going to beat me 3 days from Sunday. So I took off. I ran underneath the house because I was going to try to hide as long as I could. I knew it was not going to be good. So, and we had this little dog, and this little dog was out there. I'm under the house, get out of there. So, but Mama got a hold of me, and it was not very nice. But I know why she did it,
So y'all were pretty rough.
Yeah, we were kind of rough, but we did have a strong love for each other, and a strong bond. I mean, another incident, happened with my sister, my baby sister. We, I had this little BB gun, and so I wanted to just scare her. She was in the tub at the time, and we were in Alabama. We lived in Alabama at this time, but she was in the tub. I took all the BBs out. I dumped all the BBs out. I pumped it up probably 30 times. So, like I said, I was going there to scare her. So I ran in there, and I was like, pow, I pulled the trigger, and I said, gotcha, like that. She started going, wow! She was screaming and stuff. And I was like, what are you screaming about? I said, there wasn't even nothing in it. And I looked down, and I seen blood coming down her arm right there. And I was like, oh, no, Mom's going to kill me again. So needless to say, this time, I started bawling. I was crying. I was upset over it. But Mom didn't beat me this time. It was more of a life lesson, like, don't play with guns, point and stuff like that. Mainly, we just wanted to make sure she was all right. And as far as Susan goes, the biggest thing that I remember, we did a lot of playing when we was younger, and I think we played house a few times or something like that. But my brother, when we lived in Kentucky, we had a game room. My dad and Mom, they owned a game room, and we played pool and stuff in there. But my brother physically tried to hang her on a nail.
Oh, Lord.
And it scraped all the way up her back.
Goodness.
So
As I said, y'all were rough.
Yeah, I'm saying, I'd say my sisters have probably had a good reason to. Although, my brother and I, we did get more spankings growing up, but.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sounds like you got a good family.
Yeah, and another thing that's important that I think that needs to be shared, I, I lived probably 11, 12, maybe 13 different states before I graduated high school.
Right.
We were constantly moving. Our father, he had a different job here, was doing this and moving there. And so we was always having to make new friends. And we were always, of course, we were always good at sports, so we always did that. But above all, we always knew that we had each other. And so that's kind of how God works.
Mm-hmm.
You get your salvation. You know that all of God is saved. You have each other in church and stuff. But it was hard, because up until the 11th grade, I had been in a different school every year. And, my 11th and 12th grade year, I stayed at Leroy. And that's, that's where I graduated high school. And so.
Okay. So that's a good segue into your mom and dad. Tell us a little bit about your mom and dad and things that you remember.
Well, I'm not saying, Annie Mae Powell was ever easy to live with, but I think she was just more tired of him, switching jobs and up and moving his family and all the time. And so, and there was a couple of times where we stayed in a hotel room, and we didn't know where he was at, or, he was out doing whatever. And so it seemed like that it was always something, that I don't know what he was trying to do. One time he even tried to sell cars or, whatever, but he was always trying to do something, but he never was steady, I guess. And
so was that painful to you, or how did it affect you?
Yeah, it was painful. I mean, mainly to see my mom, hurt like that, and to be able to, and to see her doing the same thing all the time. She like I said, she'd break her back. As a waitress, she would go out there, and it seemed like for the most part that, I'm sure there was a love at one time, but it seemed like, the love for her children is what overcame, the love of, our father. And so basically they ended up parting ways, and he basically left, said he was going to go, to the grocery store, and he just never came back one day. Of course, I was a senior in high school at that time. And so kind of, short in on that, but he was afraid of my mom, and he didn't want to, come to my graduation. Matter of fact, he pulled up in his car, and he basically cracked the window about that much. He gave me a $50 bill out the window. He said, "Happy graduation," and then he drove off again.
And you still have some trouble with that today.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's he became the father that I promised my kids that I never wanted to be. I always want to be there for my kids. And so it's like, I don't know, it hurts because you're like, hey, you're supposed to be my dad, you're supposed to be my father, you're supposed to be there for your kids. And so with that, at the same time, you tend to blame yourself, well, because he's with this other woman, and he's spending time with her kids, and, they get to have, good times with him and stuff like that. And, especially my two sisters, my heart went out to my two sisters, because I was like, my brother and I, we had him, actually my brother was out of the house when he left, but we had him in our life until basically I graduated. But my sisters didn't get to have that, all they had was mom, and I mean that was enough. But I mean, not really having a father figure in their life, to finish growing up and become, uh, women that you want them to become. So, but it also tends to make you want to act out in different ways, or it did me anyway. And so, I did some stuff in high school I wasn't proud of, and ended up, I had two choices. I could either.
Well, let's go to that.
Okay.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
But before we go to that, let's talk about number 7.
Number 4.
Number 4. Number 4. Let's talk about
Yeah.
number 4.
Actually,
Now, was your dad around at that time?
yes, he was. He was at that trailer.
Okay.
We it was number 4. That was the only thing we knew the trailer by, and it was in a trailer park. It was in Adams, Tennessee, actually where we go to church now. But so number 4 was by far the worst place any one human being could want to be, other than being homeless. But I mean, as soon as you walk in, you could see holes in the floor. It was just so small. It was crowded. It was cramped, and my brother and I, we didn't even have a dining room because my brother and I, we had to basically take a sheet and put in front of the dining room, and that became our bedroom. So we only had 2 bedrooms, and the girls had to be separated. So, but I mean, it was just terrible. I mean, when the winter came and you could just feel the cold air coming up through the floor, and Mom was always scrounging up the best she could to fix us food and stuff. But you know what? It was a terrible place. And if you ask any of my siblings today, you won't even have to say anything else. But do you remember number 4? And I promise you, every one of them will have similar story to mine, if not worse. But I mean, it was rough. I mean, there's plastic over the windows. It's just stuff just trying to, keep it warmer inside. And to me, that's when we was finally able to leave that place. My mom, she said, "We're never going to another place like that again." And so we were all like, "Whew, thank goodness, 'cause it's rough." But I know what she meant, no matter if she had to, separate from Dad or whatever, she was going to make sure that we had a better place.
Right.
So.
And I think that's important to bring out that you really, there were times when you guys really had to fight to just survive.
That's right.
And so that lends to acting out and the things that you did. So let's go to the high school thing that
we
talk about losing a very valuable scholarship.
my senior year, I had a scholarship. I was going to be able to play baseball for the University of South Alabama, but I chose the wrong crowd, I guess, so to speak. So I ended up hanging out with these guys, and at the time, my dad let me use his car, so I was able to drive to. Jackson was the hangout, right? We lived in St. Stephen's, went to Leroy High School, but Jackson was like the closest thing to a city to us. And so I was able to go out, take Dad's little Subaru station wagon, and these guys, that I thought were my friends or whatever. I'm not going to give up names or anything because it's all, but it's what I chose to do. So we ended up you know, we went to the Jackson Academy where they kept their school bus, and so we were able to, you know, one of the guys, he was like, "Yeah, I got the keys to this bus. You know, we'll take it and you know, damage, you know, whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, right. You ain't got no keys." So we drove up there, and next thing I know, I hear the bus start up, and I'm like, "Oh Lord, he really does have the keys to the bus." So then his buddy was, you know, beside me. He was like, "You just need to follow him." And I was like, "Oh, what have I gotten myself into?" So they stole the Jackson Academy bus, and they drove it all the way down under the bridge, and just started busting out all the windows and just, you know, busting out the headlights and
Did you do any of that?
cutting tires. I went up there and, you know, I told them, I said, "Come on, we need to go, we need to go, we need to go." And so they more or less, you know, was like, "You're not getting out of this, doing this." So yeah, I mean, I took something and, you know, I hit one of the headlights with it. But my biggest thing was, you know, because I was more or less driving the getaway car.
Yes.
So after that, then they put it in reverse and they just backed the whole thing into the river.
Wow.
And so, went about 6 months down the road, you know, nobody had heard anything. And FBI was involved, you know, they were just searching out for everybody. Well, one of the guys was dating the sheriff's daughter or something. Well, he bragged
Mr.
about
Brilliant.
it. Yeah, he bragged about it. He bragged about it to the sheriff's daughter. Well, next thing I know, my mom gets a phone call.
And now you know that the Lord has his hand in everything.
Yes. So she gets a phone call, and next thing I know, she called Michael Shane McManus. Get your butt in here. Well, anytime you heard all three names, that was never good. So I went in there, and she was like, "You want to tell me what happened on, you know, X amount of days at this amount of time or whatever?" I said, "Mama, I don't remember, you know, 6, 7 months ago. How am I supposed to remember what happened then?" She said, "Anything about a school bus opened up your memory?" And I was like, "You could have knocked me over with a feather."
I bet.
So basically, ended up, we all went in front, you know, we had to go in front of the judge. It was a felony, it was going to be a felony charge.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up having to, we had two choices. Well, I lost my scholarship, and then, because I was supposed to get in trouble. And then, I had to end up, had two choices. I could either go to jail or join the military.
So which one did you choose?
I said, "Uncle Sam, here I come."
And you joined the Navy.
I went to the Navy, yes, joined the Navy. Right out of high school.
Right out of high school.
And had to pay back $4,000 in restitution. Took me about a year and a half to pay it back.
So that was a big
It
deal.
was a bad choice.
Yeah, it was a
you know?
bad choice. Yeah,
But
definitely.
yes, it was just one of those, another stepping stone, you know.
And that's pressure, peer pressure,
Yeah.
things like that.
I think we all have, you know, I'm sure everybody in high school has peer pressure at one time. But I chose the wrong way to handle it.
Right,
So.
exactly. So tell us a little bit about your mom before we close out for the night.
My mom, you know, of course, you know, after Dad left, she ended up, this is another point I want to bring out too, but she ended up, you know, we stayed in my Aunt Merlene's house. You know, they let us stay there, and, you know, Mom paid what she could while we was there. But she busted her tail, you know. I think all of us worked at the Jackson Steakhouse at one time. All the kids ended up working there, I believe. But my halfway through my junior and all of my senior year, I worked there. Basically, I paid for all my stuff for graduation and everything. But my mom, you know, she stuck with me no matter what I did, you know. I think back to it, you know, and it's like, even when I was in trouble, she was always there for me. And, of course, if I did good things, she was there for me on that too. But it's like, she knew the Lord, and I wish I would have gotten to know her, know the Lord instead of taking a different direction that I did. But that's part of life, but she was a strong woman. Probably one of the strongest women I've ever known, and she worked through back pain, feet would be killing her. Sometimes she worked 2 or 3 shifts, and
she still had to have help.
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, when I was in the military, I was trying to send money to her to help her while I was overseas and stuff, but it's like we were on food stamps at one time. We had to be on food stamps, but that's the best she could do. Because she was doing all the work that she knew how to do up to that point. So by far, that's she was everybody's rock. As far as the kids go, she was everybody's rock, and she was the foundation of the home. And I think we could all strive to be a little bit more like Annie Mae Powell.
Okay, well, I thank you for tonight and talking
absolutely,
about your childhood. And, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you didn't even get to touch on, but
Right.
It's important that you touched on the things that you did and telling about, the way that you grew up and stuff helps people to understand where you're going next. And so.
Yeah, and I do want to, I try to hit on the high points, and that's really, I just want to try to hit on those. And I would love to, tell my whole story and eventually, write a book about it. And for those that, are, still, interested in that, like to put that out, so I can go in depth on, other situations and stuff. But yeah, I want to hit on the high points, what it was like being Shane growing up, and he was active in sports, but he was good at this, and life wasn't always easy, but we had a good rock. We had Mom, and she was always there for us, and that was the biggest thing that I remember growing up as a child in our house. Was just knowing how strong she was and always there. So, but I'm excited. I've cried about it. I've laughed about it. I've done everything there is about it. But I'm excited now to reach out and to let people know how it was growing up in our house and what it's like now and just looking back on things. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And we will be putting another segment up in maybe a week or a few days or whatever. And then please, if you have a story or a testimony that you want to share,
Yes.
Please feel free to reach out to us. If you have some gospel songs you'd like to sing or something that you like to do, we'd love to hear the testimonies of saved people and
That's right.
talk to people that have a story to share about God. And we would really like to reach out and make something positive happen. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.